Rebecca and I, we work in the HR and recruitment department of the Telegraph. So we manage all of the schemes that take place across the year. And next year, we are actually introducing internships, work experience, and some apprenticeships within the journalistic floor. So today, we thought it was a good idea to throw the opportunity out for you guys to ask any questions that you've ever wanted to ask about working for a company like the Telegraph, and also what it's like and our grads' journey as to how they've got to where they've got to today.
Okay, so start off, has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask?
Hello, I just was wondering kind of what the usual route is into journalism and whether you think it's better to do more of like an apprenticeship or go to university, or what you think the best option is really.
Okay, so your question was, what's the best route into journalism, apprenticeships or maybe university? I'll tell you that I've just joined the graduate scheme as of September. And as part of the graduate scheme, I finished university. I did a master's as well, got onto the scheme. And as part of my training, I'm working at the Birmingham Mail. So I've just started there a couple of weeks ago. From my perspective, I didn't do a degree in journalism. I did a degree in history and then did a degree in politics. But the most important thing to get into it, I think, is the work experience itself. So if you mean apprenticeships, like going to work for a local paper, that's probably really, really good. You can do that even if you do go to university. You can do it in your holidays. You can blog as much as you want. Make sure you can just write as much as you can. And when you're at university, you've got a student paper and stuff like that. So that's all almost like having a sort of mini apprenticeship, because you're just doing loads and loads of. So you don't really have to choose. University is not a prerequisite. You don't have to go to university. You don't have to study journalism. You just have to show that you're able to be a good journalist, which is about writing, finding stories, which you can do right now, even as a school student. You can just set up a blog and just write about stuff that you like writing about. So there's no limited options. So just write as much as you want, and if you want to go to university, then that's brilliant as well. So there you go.
Hi, yeah. So I'm also on the grad scheme, which the Telegraph has. I don't know if you know anything about it. Shall I just explain what it is, so you know, like, one of the options? That some newspapers do schemes for university graduates who you can apply, and then I'm on it now. So what I do is I do a month at every desk in the Telegraph. So I've been on sport, business, news, and pretty much everything. And then now get a sort of permanent position at one of the desks. So, but I think to do things like that, I don't know too much about the apprentice things they're doing now, but to go to university, I think is quite important now, to have a degree. It doesn't have to be in journalism. So, it can be in anything, as you were saying. But yeah, I think stuff like internships, work experience, you don't have to be the sort of intern that works unpaid for 6 months. Don't do that. That's not sustainable. But a couple of weeks work experience and things like that is really good. So I think that's one way of doing it.
Have we got any other questions for anyone? Okay, so for the moment, I'll just talk through some of our other schemes that we offer, because we have the apprentice scheme, which we'll be rolling out next year, and that'll be other opportunities. So you might not necessarily want to go to university, and it's another route for you to go into journalism or into any other parts of the business that we offer, because we have a number of, we have HR, we have finance, we have a number of different areas, sales, marketing, where you might be interested in going into that route. And any other questions for anyone? No? Can you not hear me? Can you not? Okay. No questions? Okay, one question.
I'm just wondering if you could describe a typical day in the life of a trainee journalist.
So it really depends what area of journalism you're in. When I was on the news desk, I had days where I'd start at 6 a.m. The hours can be quite long. When I was on a sort of 6 a.m. shift, there were days when I was staying till sort of 4 o'clock and things like that. So they're quite long days. A lot of it seems to be, in the newsroom, it can be anything. They can give you stories to do where you sort of sit at your desk and you just make phone calls to find out more information. But there's also days where they can say, okay, this has happened on the other side of England. You need to go over there and find the story. So it can be really exciting just traveling across like England or for other journalists across the world to go and get stories. For example, let me try and think of something. But there's also, you know, the other kind of more normal things you do, such as press conferences, where, for example, when I was working on the technology desk, if they were launching the new iPad and things like that, you go along to the press conference and you can spend, you know, nowadays we don't also just do straight news stories. There's other mediums of doing things. We do a lot of multimedia, we do videos, and you know, I'm just a reporter, but I do things like live blogging, and yeah, so lots of different things like that.
I haven't started work at the Telegraph yet, but I've been at the Birmingham Mail for 3 weeks. I usually get in around 9 or 10. I speak to my news editors, and they say, we want you to write about this. So, you know, you get on the phone, you speak to as many people as you can, and you do the story. Yesterday was the Mail's Local Heroes Awards in Edgbaston, so I went along to that. It was like an award ceremony, and we had lunch. So I spoke to all the winners. I took some video on my phone, put that on the website. I was live tweeting it while it was going on, so everyone knew who the winners were. I just finished writing a couple of interviews with the winners, which are going to be in the papers. So in a sense, we are reporters, but we basically do everything. We film, we video, we tweet, we live blog. I did the Birmingham Mail's live blog, which you should all follow, obviously, which keeps up with all the news going on in Birmingham, and our Twitter stream is linked to that. And it's just about giving viewers, readers, every type of news possible at all times of the day. So we always got to be pretty switched on. We do the standard news story, but then we have to do everything else as well. So there is no day in the life, really. Every day is slightly different, but there's some things that we just have to be really good at, which is kind of writing to deadline and making sure that you make all your editors quite happy with you and not hand stuff in late and don't spell anyone's name incorrect or, you know, all that sort of stuff. But that's why the trainee scheme is so good, because the whole point is to, you know, maybe get all your mistakes out really early on and get as much training as possible. And then by the time you're, you know, a proper national news reporter, then you're pretty good at what you do.
Okay, girls, do you want to tell us what it is you enjoy most about journalism and your roles?
I think for me, the reason I went into journalism is mainly because it sort of ties together everything I really like doing, which is speaking to people, writing. You know, I'm quite a nosy, curious person. I like finding out what's happening. So this is a good job for me. Some of the, you know, most fun stuff. I once interviewed Will Smith. That's probably the pinnacle of my journalism career. You don't always just get to meet celebrities, but when you do, it's pretty fun. So for me, I really like features. I like writing longer articles. I love interviewing people and speaking to people. I also had quite a lot of opportunities to do a lot of royal things, which is always fun, going to see the Queen and Prince Charles and things like that. So as a journalist, as we were saying earlier, every day is completely different. You can be doing really glamorous, fun things one day, and then another day, you know, just sitting in the office all day, staring at your computer. But if you like what you're doing, both of those different ways of doing it are just really fun and enjoyable, really.
I guess I got into journalism because there's some things that I really, really love, and one of the main things was football. So I'm a big Chelsea fan, and one of the first times I got... Thank you, yes. One of the first things I started writing about at university was the fact that I'm a massive Chelsea fan. I watch all the games, I stream them online. I'm just constantly aware of what's going on. So I didn't really know I wanted to be a proper journalist, but I was like, I love Chelsea, so I'll just write about them because I've got lots of opinions. So I just started off a blog. I started writing about football, and then I read lots of football journalism as well. And I thought, yeah, it's fun. I mean, imagine doing this for a job. It's, you know, most people wouldn't consider it a job. It's just, for me, it's a hobby. So that was how I got into journalism. I would love to be a sports writer now at the Telegraph, but if you have just one little thing that you love, if you really, really love Apple, you're a proper Apple fanboy, Apple fangirl, then why not just write about it, how much you do or dislike Apple. If you're really into tech, you're really into movies, you're really into celebrities, then just do it. You can do it on your own time, and then suddenly it becomes something that engulfs your life. So, and I like football, but I also like quite boring stuff like economics and finance. I love that sort of stuff, and journalism also gives me an opportunity to write a lot about that as well. You just get onto the phone and you speak to people and they tell you things, and you know, you're trying to work out what the story is, and you write about it. So if you've got some things that really take up and obsess your life, then I think that's quite a good thing for journalism, to have a specialism, to have a niche. And you can become really great at that. If you just tweet a lot about one certain thing, people follow you because they know that you're kind of an expert on that sort of thing, and you can just make a career out of being someone who's really passionate about one thing. You don't have to be, really into war zones and wanting to go into conflict. That is what some journalists do, but other journalists are not like that. So the scope to be whoever you want to be as a reporter is quite big. So you might not think you want to be a journalist right now, but as soon as you start writing about some stuff, it might just happen. And that's kind of what happened to me. So go for it.
Would you mind just giving everyone a little bit more of an insight into the actual graduate training program and the process that you went through from application? I know it's slightly longer time ago for you, Radhika, but Mehren, you probably remember it slightly better. The process that you went through and the time and effort that you need to put into the application, and then the training you get from that as well.
This time last year, I probably filled in my application form, and any of you guys interested in it, I guess none of you guys are finishing university, but usually last year university students will start applying now, and the form is on the website. You can just go to it at Telegraph Careers. The form is quite long. They ask you normal stuff like your CV and your educational history, but also things like, why do you want to be a journalist? What's so good about Telegraph? And tell us about the qualities you need to be a good journalist. I sent the form off sort of in November, and I heard nothing until sort of the end of December, and I got an interview. And I think at that interview stage, maybe there's around 20 odd people. And then you have an interview with 2 editors who sit and they chat to you in a room. To be honest, it wasn't that much of an interview. All they asked me was, who's my favorite Chelsea player and, why I'm really into sport and stuff. But I think the general interview is just to get to know more about your personality. Obviously, it's hard in other ways as well because they want to know, they go through some of the stuff you've written and then say, how did you find this story? Why did you write about this? And then after that, it gets whittled down to maybe 12. And you have a sort of almost like weird apprentice-style selection where you sit around a table and the editors are there and they basically just want to know how you get on in a group and how you can discuss things, whether you're good at sort of debating and talking. So we had 2 debates, one of which was about schools and education, and they said, talk about what do you think about education, what do you think about Michael Gove, and the other one was, does money buy happiness? So these kind of philosophical questions and stuff that you guys should, be quite interested in. Education, schools, you're in quite a privileged position because me as well, I just come out of education. So you sort of know more about this sort of stuff than the editors who are asking you the questions, which is why they're asking you them, because you're in quite a good position. And then after that, we got a phone call the next day at 7 o'clock in the morning. I thought it was my mum waking me up because she does that, because I don't wake up on time. But it was one of the guys who interviewed us, one of the executive editors, and he told me that I got the job. And I was, okay, great, but I went straight back to bed. And then it kind of sunk in, and I was like, okay, wow. We took on 6 people this year, and that was in February. So I finished my university degree in June, and then in September we started off doing some training up in Howden, which is a village in Yorkshire, and we basically sit in a classroom for 6 weeks and get to learn all the basic journalism skills, which is really good for me because I didn't have a journalism degree, and they taught us about how to write, how to do editing, taking photos. That's really good. You get to become really close with the people on your group. And then I came straight to the Mail, and some people are in Liverpool, some people are going to go to Newcastle and in Cardiff, and to work for a big city newspaper for about 3 months. So the emphasis at Telegraph is really to give you as much training as possible. They really, really look after you. They're not just going to say like, oh, you've got a job at Telegraph, here, go work at Telegraph in London. They want to nurture you as really, really good journalists. And I've loved being in Birmingham. I've only been in the city for 3 weeks. I don't really know anything about Birmingham before I came here, but the Brummies are really amazing, fantastic people. I get to talk to you guys every day on the phone. Everyone calls me Bab and stuff like this, which I didn't know were like things, because in the south nobody's that friendly. But it's a good way to get to know a city, and you might be sent all over anywhere in the country that you don't really know about. And then what will happen after that is I'll go back to London and do what Radhika's doing, and she's just finished because she's in the year above me, so she'll tell you about the stuff you do once you get back to London.
Yeah, so I basically did all that a year ago, so I'm a sort of year ahead, if you will. And I, after applying, had the same process where I went off to this Yorkshire village, which was very sort of random, to learn the basic skills. And then I went off to Liverpool to work at the Liverpool Echo, which is a really fun tabloid. That was really great. Never lived in Liverpool before. I wrote lots of things about Scouse brows and fun things like that. And then came And then in June, I think, I came to the Telegraph offices, and that was the first time I was properly working there. And that's when I did a month on every desk. So I've done a month on news, digital, which basically means controlling the website, sport, business and technology. I did some time on the women's desk, and now I'm on features. And this is my last month. So in December, I'm going to sort of finish the scheme. And then the general plan is I now get given a permanent job in one of these sections. I don't actually know which one, which is quite scary, but we'll see. I could end up as a sports reporter or a business reporter, but I'll find that out next month. So the essential thing is with the scheme that you get to do a month on every desk, which is an amazing opportunity because no other journalists get to be a sports reporter, a business reporter. You know, you get this kind of all-round experience, which is amazing. It means you sort of learn a lot of different things. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, ladies. Does anyone have any final questions before we wrap up? No? Okay, thank you very much for your time, guys. Thank you.